Welcome to the Omaha Magazine podcast. It's about all of us, where we highlight Omaha business and community leaders, arts and culture, and where to dine and play. I'm Gil Cohen, Executive Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Omaha Magazine. Omaha is a home to one of the longest-running sports championship series in the country. Baseball's College World Series is celebrating 75 years in Omaha, and to commemorate this diamond anniversary, we have College World Series, Inc. Chairman Jack Deasing and his daughter, Vice President of the College World Series, Inc., Lisa Deasing, to share the rich history of the organization and what's in store for the future. Hey, Gil Cohen, back with two very special guests celebrating a huge anniversary. Jack Deasing Jr.
Thank you.
And Lisa Deasing, Jack's daughter.
That's right.
With College World Series, Inc. 75 years. That's a milestone for pretty much any sport, let alone college sports. I think that puts you in the about third in history behind the NCAA basketball, I think, and NIT, roughly, or somewhere in that vicinity. There's only about 3 college sports that have lasted so far 75 years. I think.
Well, that may be. There's
not sports, but tournaments.
There's certainly not any championship of the NCAAs that's been the same place for 75 years, which is what we can hold our hat to here in Omaha, Nebraska, which is a tremendous accomplishment. I mean, the NCAA has 93 championships, and they have more now than they used to have, basically because the College World Series helped them set the foundation. Mm-hmm. Once we had rolling 1-year contracts and then 5-year contracts, and now we've had a 25-year contract, and that's going to all add up to 75 years this year. And
something. And
other championships now, theirs are morphing into being places for a certain period of time, like soccer,
right?
Like women's softball,
right, move it
like
around.
Golf,
yeah,
and even the hockey is in 3 or 4 or 5 places normally instead of 50. Basketball is the only one that still moves around a lot.
But it didn't start here. There was about 2 or 3 years that it wasn't in Omaha, correct? They would have started in Kalamazoo and then moved to Wichita.
Right. Yeah. No. The College World Series started in Kalamazoo and then Wichita State. Right. Wichita for between the two for 3 years, and they weren't really getting any traction. Huh. And that was in 1950. I think the NCAA was sort of trying to figure out how important college baseball was.
Right.
And that just happened to coincide with the fact that the powers that be here in Omaha had built the new AAA stadium, which was a 10,000-seat stadium.
Right.
And the powers that be here in Omaha got wind of the fact the NCAA was looking for a home. So we went down, they went down, the powers that be here in Omaha, and convinced the NCAA that we had a stadium, we'd get fans there, and we'd make it a success for them. And they bought the sales pitch, and we have been here ever since. You know? Yeah.
That last, if memory serves me correct, was it the last year when it was in Wichita that President Bush won, played for Yale at that time?
Yep. Yep.
And then then it would have moved to Omaha after that. There's some pretty big hitters. I mean, was it the owner, the CEO of Brandeis department store, I think, and Byron Reed and
Morris Jacobs from Bozell and Jacobs, and those were the 3 primarily, along with the mayor. Mm-hmm. And then
whose last name is Rosenblatt.
Rosenblatt. Well, I mean, he was one of the mayors at the time, but and then what ended up happening was the gentleman at Brandeis who was heavily involved was a fellow by the name of Ed Pettis, and my dad worked at Brandeis and actually worked for Mr. Pettis, and then Mr. Pettis died unexplainably in 1963.
Okay.
And then the people in Omaha said to my dad, "We'd like you to take it over," because my dad was going to take his responsibilities at Brandeis. And my dad said, I don't want to do this. I don't know anything about baseball. And they convinced him to do it. And that was the laying of the foundation for the organization and everything that we built since then. And, if it weren't for my father, this championship here in Omaha wouldn't be what it is today. So we got a lot to be thankful for there.
Yeah, what a legacy. That's just incredible. That and for you to come, when did you, so your dad started that in the College World Series, Inc., the organization in 60?
He started in 67. And then it was really, as I say, and Lisa knows, if you think about it, the foresight to create a local organizing committee, a 501c3 that allowed businesses to figure out a way to develop provide some money to help on a tax efficient basis, but also to set up a board and a board of directors to run things and sell tickets and do the promotions and negotiate with the NCAA and coordinate with the city and do all the things that needed to be done, set up the host institution, set up the ticket process of general admission, book tickets. That was amazing that was thought of in the time. And I like to say to people that I've never been able to verify this, but I have to believe that the formation of College World Series of Omaha, Inc. in 1967, probably the first official local organizing committee of any sports championship around, because there weren't many in those days anyway.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was the start, and got a board involved, and everybody was all volunteers, and everybody committed to doing the best they could to carry forward the spirit of the College World Series, because the kids play the game for the love of the game, and they negotiated a deal with the NCAA that were rolling one-year contracts. So if nobody said they didn't want to do it in August of each year, it just kept on going for.
Okay.
So that's the way it went. So from 1967 up to 1990.
Wow. And then you started getting these longer term.
Then we started.
But Rosenblatt was still there.
Oh yeah, Rosenblatt was still there, and they were having. A lot of things changed. It used to be back in the day, you'd have the teams would come in and it was double elimination, but it was like you started playing like on a Wednesday and we kept going until like the following Thursday. It was just play baseball all the time, and so you had rain problems, and it was the series was done over the Memorial Day weekend, so you didn't know if it was going to be 70 or 40, and it was tough. And but by 1990, if you think about it, that was 40 years from 1950. They had new leadership at the NCAA.
Right.
And my father had decided that, even just think about it, that day he was 72.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And he said, these young people are coming in. I need younger people to get involved. And so I got involved and was nominated to be the president, and subsequently became chairman and president. My father was chairman of the board, and then Dennis Pope at the time, who had just taken over as the managing director of baseball, was the new face for the NCAA, not the head of the NCAA, but the new face for baseball. And so he was younger, and things were changing in baseball. It was getting a little bit more popular. ESPN had started coming in and televising some of the games, so that was a good thing. And teams were starting to get better facilities, and Rosenblatt was 40 years old, and he wanted to do some things at the stadium. Thought we should do some things. Yeah. And so I say the NCAA did. So we've always had a good partnership with the NCAA. We sat down with the NCAA and the city, and we talked about what might need to be done, and we said, well, we, the city, primarily commit to spending money, but we can't do it with rolling one-year contracts. It has to be 5-year. Yeah. They had never had any championship that had anything longer than a year at a time.
Wow.
So that was the start of 5-year contracts that went actually all the way up to 2010. And, for people listening to this, back in the day, there were houses on 10th Street. Right. There was no parking on 10th Street. And we spent the city spent $43 million on Rosenblatt in that period of time from 1990 to 2010, putting in a new front facade, new press box, new stadium view club,
lighting,
new outfield seating, got rid of the the bleacher seats down the right and left field, but put reserve seats down there, and then created real nice, I'd call them bleacher seats, but they were better than bleacher seats out in the outfield. So we had the whole stadium surrounded, created box seats, created suites up in the press box area, and created the plaza out front of the stadium, and just made significant improvements to the point where it was
pretty nice.
Pretty nice, yeah.
But then you can only do so much, right?
That's right.
Right.
And ergo, new stadium. How did that transpire?
Well,
is that part of the NCAA?
No. Yes and no. The NCAA certainly let us know what was happening with other institutions who were really top-notch in baseball, whether it was LSU or most of the teams down south, Arizona State at the time, USC out in California. And so we knew things were changing. And so when we just finished negotiating the last 5-year contract from 2005, 2010, we created a little ad hoc committee made up of College World Series in the city and some people from the chamber. Nobody asked us to do anything. We just said, hey, maybe we should come up with a plan to upgrade Rosenblatt.
Right.
So long story short, we came up with a plan. Took about a year because this was the end of 2005 till the end of 2006. And actually at the time I had to go out and raise the money, and we got commitments to raise most of the money.
Right.
Created a plan to do some things at Rosenblatt. Went to the NCAA and the baseball committee, presented it to them in the fall with the mayor of 2006, and they said, God, this is wonderful. All signed off on it, and thought we were ready to go. And then in like February, March of 2007, the NCAA goes, hey, this is a great plan, but if we're going to spend this kind of money on an old place, do you think we ought to be looking at the pros and cons of doing a new place? And that was in the spring of 2007. And so after we got over the shock of them asking that, since we thought we'd had a deal, it so happened to the time the Royals were looking at doing a downtown stadium, smaller stadium. So we evaluated whether there was a way to do a smaller stadium and expand it just for the College World Series and keep the Royals and College World Series using the same facility. Did a lot of trips to look at that and figured out that
feasible.
Really wasn't going to be feasible because where do you store the seats and move it around
Except Alan Stein did tell me before Warner Park, I think it was the groundbreaking of Warner Park, he still, at that point, even still believed that they could have figured something out with Rosenblatt. This is what he told me back.
They probably could have, but
15 yeyears ago.
But what ended up happening when we looked at the feasibility of a new stadium versus sort of like if you have a nice house and you really like your house and you keep adding on to your house and making it nice, but you can build a new place exactly the way you want to build it.
Exactly.
Without having to tear out walls and do everything else. And you can do it for pretty close to the same cost.
Yeah.
And that's what ended up happening.
Yeah.
We were able to come up with a design for the stadium as it is now, 24,000 seats, similar to Rosenblatt, not any bigger, but everything was new.
Yeah.
Locker rooms were new, which we had terrible locker rooms at Rosenblatt. Concourse was wonderful. People could move around. Concessions were new.
Press box is beautiful. I've been up there.
Yeah, to be downtown.
Sandy Buddha lets me in.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, Sandy and I graduated from prep together.
Yeah.
So anyway, and it was downtown. And while, it was a tough time, those of us have been involved with the College World Series for a long time and grown up with Rosenblatt. Right. So we had the same sort of feelings.
There.
Maybe not quite as much as the people that live in South Omaha, but we did. Meant a lot to us. But at the same time, you realize sort of like what we're going through now. If you want to build the future, you got to create it.
You can't stand in the way of progress.
Right. You can't just be resting on your laurels. So
I'm assuming you're talking about the streetcar, but
no. And so
I won't ask your opinion on that.
So we came up with a plan, and really we had a interesting process. But when we presented the plan, the NCAA loved it, thought it was great. In August of 2007, they said, "Come back when you've got the real plans." So we went to them, and after we had all the people involved, Stein from the Royals. And the reason it didn't work out for the Royals is because there was not going to be any split of the money.
Right. Oh.
All the money was going to go, because you weren't building the stadium, arguably, you weren't going to get naming rights for the Royals. And even if you did, it was going to be minor because of what we were looking for. Same with the suites and the club seats. So that was created a little bit of a reason why that didn't work out for the Royals. Plus they didn't need a 4,000 seat stadium anyway. No, and I think everything ended up working out good for them.
I think so too.
And
they were pretty successful out there. And Marty does a great job with the team.
And so we presented a plan, had an ad hoc committee, and everybody was involved. HDR, Creighton, Kiewit, College World Series, the city, and developed where we would put it after a bunch of argument. And we originally thought in Lot D, but that didn't work for a variety of reasons. And where it is now is so we went back to the NCAA in February of 2008. Now think about that. It's 2.5 years from when we originally started talking about this. And we presented a plan, and we decided in Omaha that we had to present a plan and said, hey, that we got to get tax revenue to pay for this. So we needed at least 20 years. So when we went, we said, well, we need 20. Let's go for 25. And they didn't even argue with us.
Wow. This is TIF
at the
funding
meeting. Well, they didn't argue with us with 25 years to pay off the debt for the stadium. No, that actually it's something that people don't understand. There's no, really, in my opinion, no city tax money. I mean, it's
deferred from
rental car tax went up. Tax for the hotels went up.
Yeah.
They moved over what they called Rosenblatt debt service. So yes, it could have gone away, but but they just moved it over. So it wasn't a new item, and then took some of the money from Keno revenues and helped pay the debt.
Yeah.
So really, in my opinion, has nothing to do with taking money from Peter to pay Paul. It was a nice way of actually charging people to come here to view it a little bit more money. And the people in Omaha, money was just moved around.
Yeah.
It wasn't taking it from anywhere. You could make the argument that could have gone somewhere else, but then you're going, okay, well, you don't have the College World Series here anymore. And that's $120 million a year economic impact, not to mention what it means across throughout the country, the image and
TV
the quality
exposure.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, they said, no problem. Go visit with the public and make sure that you're not going to have a big fight about this. And that was, we had to have some public meetings. Sandy Buddha, by the way, was one of the people that wasn't real happy. And I love Sandy. But
he's been mentioned about 6 times on these podcasts already. Everybody loves Sandy.
I wonder if he watches every episode.
He watches all
his name
of them.
tallies out.
He's a great guy, and but it's like everything. Change is tough, but change is good. And what ended up happening turned out to be great for South Omaha because the zoo's expanded.
Exactly.
And it's gotten better, and other things have happened down in South Omaha. It's been great. This has been great for the College World Series. So we went back in April of 2008, said, okay, we met, we're 100% behind this. And they said, okay, we're signing the dotted line, but from 1967 to 2010, you've had a nonprofit organization that's all volunteer, along with a third-party managing executive director, and we're going to sign a 25-year contract where somebody doesn't have any full-time employees. We can't do that.
Oh, okay.
So we said, okay, well, we've got an answer. And what we did is we hired the people that were basically our outsourced executive director to be full-time employees, and kept our nonprofit volunteer board as the strategic part of the, but had a, and that solved that problem, didn't cost anybody anything else, and set up financial projections that everybody loved. And so that got us to where we are now. Well, it didn't get us where we are now, but it got us to the new stadium.
Yeah. That's a lot of stuff to get done in 75 years.
Well,
more to come.
More to come.
More to come.
I would say the financial projections, we've exceeded every goal we had. The NCAA couldn't be happier, and we've got a great partnership with them. We've got a great partnership with the city. You know, now Mecca, Roger Dixon, Metropolitan Entertainment Convention Authority, they run the facilities for the city. When we signed the contract, the financial projections, of course, which weren't the only thing, but they were fairly important to the NCAA because they were making a big commitment, were that just out of this tournament, so ticket prices, naming rights, club seat premiums, suite premiums, primarily the net revenue, so after all the expenses that they would get after 25 years, would be about $240 million.
Wow.
As of this last year, we're projected probably to be closer to $360 million.
Wow.
It's been so successful beyond, and it's been successful from a student athlete. You know, it's interesting, Gil. Arkansas, the name tag is Omahogs.
Oh.
Ole Miss is Omaha. LSU says, our eyes are on Omaha.
Southern Cal, Arizona State, I'm sure they all
in
have.
Indiana, when they got here a few years back, had a sign on the wall in their baseball complex, 657 miles to Omaha.
Yeah.
Texas A&M's got a art description on their suite level of their stadium, big Road to Omaha statue, the Road to Omaha.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing that I didn't mention as we were going through this. And, in 1999, when we had the 50th, so now we're talking about the 75th.
Right.
We, College World Series, came up with the idea of creating a statue, which, as we all now, right, the old Road to Omaha statue, the iconic image of the College World Series. We paid for it. We came up with the name Road to Omaha. We donated the statue to the city, so now it's in a prominent place at the stadium.
Right.
And then the NCAA, of course, then wanted the rights to the words Road to Omaha. We created the opening ceremonies, which had never, so now we still have a facsimile of that. We created the phrase tagline, greatest show on dirt.
A lot of
and so now that's really also, if you look on these broadcasts of the college baseball games leading up to the College World Series, they're talking about greatest show on dirt, Road to Omaha.
Those are all copyrighted now, though, aren't they?
They are.
Exactly.
I mean, you can't use, a hotel can't promote, let's say,
That's correct.
hey, come in here for the College World Series or whatever. These are all copyrighted and patented.
No, exactly. They're
Yeah.
copyrighted by the NCAA now, and we help them get that done. The point is the relationship has been such that they didn't have to tell us what to do all the time. We're sort of joined at the hip and making this event a great event for the student athlete and for the fans. And
it's got to be a great experience for these kids to, play the whole season and then have a chance to, because it's got to be in the back of their head, especially if they're having a winning season. Hey, we got a chance to go to Omaha and play the College World Series. And, we've had, I don't know, let's say you could probably pick out the top 25 players that have been here over the last 50 years or whatever, Barry Bonds and Mike Schmidt and Deion Sanders and all these
Kyle Peterson.
Exactly. Can't forget about Kyle.
Warren Morris, who hit the home run and I forget the name of the pitcher for Minnesota that beat USC back in the late 60s, early 70s. Went in the major leagues.
Sporg? Wasn't Sporg?
No, I don't remember. But anyway, there's been...
And some of these kids went on not only to win the College World Series here, but some of them went on to win Major League and World Series games. Several pitchers, I think. I can't, for the life of me, I can't remember all of it, but I know several players that went on to not only win the College World Series here, but then within a year or a few years after that, won a Major League World Series. What an incredible opportunity, and say, hey, we were in Omaha and we got to play, and whether it was Rosenblatt Stadium or Schwab Field now.
Most of the kids, though, end up playing for the love of the game. That's the thing that's still a beauty about the College World Series, because they're not all pro. They're not all going to make the pros, so they're here. This is their World Series.
Exactly.
And this College World Series, their World Series, they won't make it anywhere else. And everybody that comes here, all the kids and everything, they just can't say enough good things about the experience.
And the parents, too. I mean, as you know, we were talking earlier, I was in the hotel business for a while, and fortunate when I was managing a hotel in West Omaha, fortunate to have teams out there occasionally. And, they'd be all pumped up, and then they'd lose a game. You felt bad for them when they had to go home. It makes it tough, but they not any time did they ever have anything disparaging to say about Omaha. They just, they loved it here. So much opportunity for things to do.
You bring up a good point, though, Gil. I think that's one of the most difficult things for us and our staff, too. It's heartbreaking for us to see the teams lose and have to go home. So something Jack didn't mention yet is our service clubs that we've had engaged since the beginning of College World Series of Omaha, Inc. So they host each team, welcome them when they come into town. But that service club and our staff also go to the airport with those teams and send them off. And they've built... A lot of our service club members say they still keep in touch with coaches and teams they hosted 5, 10, 20 years ago. They have those relationships. They call them all the time, and they feel a little bit like a family, home away from home when the teams are here. And so I think we've got to be really grateful and thankful to those service clubs. And even when it's difficult, when the teams do have to go home, we do our best to show up for them and show our support.
So that's a great segue into why Lisa's here today. Some big shoes to fill, 4 big feet between your grandfather and your dad. And you're on the College World Series Inc. board now, too. You've been on there how long?
So I've been on our board and executive committee for 10 years now.
Wow, okay.
And you're right, a lot of big shoes to fill for me and everyone else on the board, too. We're lucky to have a really active and engaged board who are excited to bring this forward and see what else we can do to elevate the experience.
Yeah, and it's great to have the mentorship of your dad and your grandfather, kind of, lack of a better term, pave the road for you, right?
It's been very lucky. In fact, I followed him in my professional career as well, so I followed in his footsteps quite a bit.
Insurance as well?
Yes, I am in the insurance industry, and so it's been nice to have him as a mentor, obviously, my entire life, and it's interesting to get to hear and understand and be a part of what he created, what Pop created, and figure out how we can make this better together.
So how do we improve on, now I know Creighton is building a new ball field, correct? So there'll be a practice field so they won't have to worry about practicing at Schwab Field, correct? So I'm sure that takes a little bit of pressure and probably helps you guys out a little bit to be able to have a field for the teams to practice on.
Yeah, I'll let Lisa talk about our strategic plan we just went through and looking into the future. As I mentioned earlier, in order to paraphrase a little bit what a fellow by the name of Abe Lincoln said a couple hundred years ago, in order to build the future, you've got to create it. So, so we have focused on what we need to do. And one of the things that we need to do in making this a better experience for the kids, or continue to make it better for the kids and the fans, is to make sure we have a state-of-the-art facility. So over the past 10 years, 11 years, it's been at now Charles Schwab. Spent already $7.7 million on doing things to the stadium to keep it tip-top shape, state-of-the-art facility. And over the next 2 years, we're going to spend this, we being us and primarily Mecca, but we're helping support that a little bit, almost $7 million on new scoreboards, new ribboning, which would really be a great fan amenity. And so, we're always looking to make things better. And as it relates to what you're talking about with Creighton, one of the things with Creighton's expansion east in their campus, which they've got a great campus. They're doing a lot of things. Their baseball field was going away, which was used a lot, and as are their other facilities for weight training and batting cages and so forth. And in talking to Creighton, who, by the way, is now co-host with part of the future with University of Nebraska at Omaha, but Creighton has been the primary host institution until this year for the past 74 years. But we thought two things. As a host institution, you probably really ought to have a practice field available for the. So if you're doing away with it, we need to figure out how to create that, and then how do we make it so that it's similar to the current field, and how do we finance it? And so we assisted Creighton in their endeavors to obtain the money from the state, as a lot of the money from the state, to be able to build the facility. And so there'll be this practice facility will be finished by 2026, and they're actually building a softball complex too.
Oh, wow.
So that's all part of the student-athlete experience, because these kids are used to now not having to get on a bus and travel for 15 minutes to go practice.
Right.
It's sort of like everything else that's happening in amateur sports.
Keep it close.
They're experiencing more things like the pros, and they want it the way they want it. So we weren't asked to do this, but we knew it was important to do it. And just the things that we're doing to the stadium are mostly because we know they need to be done to keep the stadium up, but also because of feedback we received from the fans. So that leads into the future planning, and our organization thought, well, our mission is to foster, support, and facilitate efforts to host the NCAA Men's College World Series here in Omaha forever. It's been 75 years. We want to make it forever.
Fingers crossed. So
we felt we'd do the strategic plan, and I'll let Lisa talk a little bit about that process.
A couple of quick things I want to build on, though, before I talk about the future. He's right to mention it really was his support helping Creighton get the money from the state, but as well, because our intention as our organization is to give back to this community, is Creighton has been such a great long-term partner, and actually they were thoughtful in configuring this new practice stadium to be oriented in the same direction as our current stadium at Charles Schwab. So the athletes will have a similar experience because the outside lines won't be. But the outside lines won't be.
Because I know there's people that are, should have been there. That's okay. It is what it is.
That's right.
But now you'll have the practice facility the same configuration.
Facing the same direction. The sidelines won't be quite as long, so it won't be quite the same distance, but at least you'll have that orientation the same. So that will be helpful. And then as well, we supported UNO as well. They are becoming our new or second co-host this year. And so just want to be cognizant of the fact that we've given back to our local universities who are our longtime partners. That, of course, will be part of our thoughtfulness as we move forward. We've also given back a lot to this community as far as youth baseball involvement, because we want to make sure that we are supporting the baseball players of the future to continue the interest in this sport, to continue the need for this championship. So as Jack mentioned, our organization, College World Series of Omaha, Inc., our board endeavored over the last year, it was about an 8-month process. We hired an external third-party consultant to help us create a strategic plan, long-term strategic plan, because again, we've had a lot of success. We have an incredible story to share, and we're trying our best to get that story out there right here and now. But we need to think about, be proactive about, okay, how do we continue the excitement?
Mm-hmm.
How do we continue to bring in the fans of the next generation?
Right.
How do we keep that good partnership with the NCAA? Do we need to think about partnerships externally? So long story short, we created the strategic plan. It has 6 pillars and really weaves in most of the things I just talked about. So first and foremost, it's the athlete and team experience.
Right.
How can we elevate what we're already doing in Omaha? Yes, we have an incredible stadium. We are putting over $7 million into it in the next couple of years to increase that fan experience. But what can we do to be different? Maybe look a little more like a major league experience or what some of those other bigger universities are putting into their Fan Fest experiences, like an Omaha room. Actually, we just heard recently one of the SEC stadiums is putting in an Omaha club room to celebrate their fans. So they called us to ask if they could use our name, the Omaha room.
Sure, go ahead and spread the word.
That's right.
They didn't say a College World Series room is an Omaha.
It's
Exactly,
Omaha room.
Omaha
That's
room.
right.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, experience. Then, of course, again, we've got to focus on our local relationships because in addition to our partners at Mecca and the city,
Right.
we need to make sure the fans are having a great experience.
Sure.
We're looking forward to including and growing our group of ambassadors because this wouldn't be the success it is without people coming and enjoying the event. So we want to focus on that. Then, of course, externally, the NCAA, because we know the SEC has made such a significant increase and impact on their participation in this championship as of recent years, we're looking outside of the NCAA and thinking about maybe we need to talk about, I should say in addition to, not outside of the NCAA, but talking to those the commissioners of those conferences, make sure that we are giving them the experience they're hoping for. Then, of course, there's the financial things that we need to concern ourselves with and be aware of and be creative. But also the final point is our board and staff.
Right.
We've been very lucky to have some long tenured folks on our board who have historical knowledge, who've been able to mentor the rest of us that are newer to this board. We want to continue to engage new people in the community, though, to help make them aware and maybe come up with some new creative, find some different expertise that we can bring in that could support us in a different way. But then most importantly is our staff. We have a full-time staff of 4 folks and then 1 part-time individual, and they are the boots on the ground. They are our heroes. They're making everything happen. And so we really couldn't do it without them. So we want to be cognizant of how do we attract and retain those right people,
talent,
just like every other business,
Exactly.
right? But we want to be thoughtful about that and make sure we've got a plan for the future.
Cool. So it sounds like you got some great things going on, and you know, 75-year history is just like I mentioned before. It's just phenomenal that we've been able to host it. For all those years, and it's just such a unique thing in worldwide, not just in the United States, but worldwide to have. I mean, I don't know how long the Masters has been going on in the same location, but there's only a handful of.
Well, I think that's a very good couple things I want to make sure that you know, Gil, because you know everything.
No,
but, I think it's important. You know, Lisa hit it, but we need to make sure that everybody in our community that's been involved. We have a great, as I said before, great partnership relationship with the city, and of course couldn't do it without the city and the mayor and the police department and Visit Omaha and of course Mecca now. But the business community and our host institutions. This event generates $120+ million every year economic impact. 1,100 jobs are supported, $8 million plus in taxes for the state and local taxes. I can make an estimate, but a significant amount of digital awareness throughout the United States on where the College World Series in Omaha and the use of the word Omaha. And so it's become a fabric of the community. And we don't own it, but we treat it like we own it. At the same time, we want to keep nurturing it, and we want to make sure it's here for another 75 years. And it's incumbent upon us, as Lisa said, with the relationships, not only with the NCAA, that has to be a good relationship, but which we have a good relationship with them. But we have to make sure that we're thinking into the future and we're thinking ahead of the game. We're not taking things for granted, but that people here in Omaha believe it's good for Omaha. I mean,
residents can't take it for granted. I think some of them go, well, you know, I can't get a ticket to the game. There's so much that they can do. And then it's just the fans themselves. Let's say 10 days at 24,000, 240, 250,000 fans that go home and say, what a great time I had in Omaha. Right? What a great opportunity. Whether the team comes back, they might even come back again. That's right. Regardless of whether their team comes back. Maybe they'll come back to visit the zoo. They didn't have enough time, or maybe they'll come back and visit the old market, or some other trip where they've never been to Omaha before. But it's a great opportunity to bring them here and then hopefully get them back again. So it's probably even a larger impact economically than just that 10 days of the College World Series.
Well, we're trying to get Omaha to be a destination place, which has got everything everybody wants and be a cool place. Having the College World Series helps make Omaha cool. And I certainly wouldn't, if we were something other than being part of College World Series of Omaha Inc., we wouldn't want to be the political public person who was in charge when we didn't have the College World Series here.
That'd be tough. You're not going to win re-election off of that one.
It's an image building thing for the city and the state, and it's a quality of life. I mean, it just is another cool thing that people have to do. And you're right. I mean, whether you're in Omaha or not from Omaha, it's for a lot of people, especially from outside of Omaha, I suppose now, but it's a bucket list item.
Yep. Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we have the other thing that is really cool about this that people don't know. Aside, you mentioned 200. There's 360,000 people every year plus that come to this. 22,000 a game. The first year it was here in 1950, there was a total of 17,500.
Isn't that something?
But in addition,
that was probably the whole population of Wichita and Omaha at that time.
Right now, each year, 1,000 Little League teams come here.
That's the Slump Busters.
Slump Busters and Battle Omaha, 1,000.
Yeah.
There's 120,000 hotel rooms, of which you, of course, are very familiar with the hotel business. This last year, I found this interesting. I don't think people really realize this, but the occupancy, if the first Saturday was 92%, the second Saturday was 96%.
That's something.
And the average occupancy was 86%.
Yeah.
It's unheard of. And so it's good for the people from out of town. It's good for the people in town.
Yeah.
And we want to, our goal, as Lisa said, is just to be part of the solution as we move forward to make sure it's here for the next 75 years.
Perfect. That's a great way to end it. Anything, last comment or anything? I think you ended it perfect. It'd be great to keep it here another 75 years and more. I won't be here 75 years from now.
I think the last thing I would say is, because we've mentioned a lot, this is our 75th year. A lot of people aren't familiar yet that we actually are celebrating. We've had a lot of conversation between us today, but we've also mentioned between the three of us a lot about our fans. We are doing a celebration to give thanks back to our fans here in Omaha the Thursday night before the series starts.
Okay.
It's going to be an event in the park downtown.
All right.
There will be bands, fireworks, again, because we couldn't do this without everyone here.
So it'll be in Gene Leahy, the new Heartland America.
It'll be kind of part of that's a very good point, Lisa. It's a very good point. You do.
Thank you.
That's why we brought her along.
That's why we brought her along.
That's why Dad invited you.
I knew she'd figure. No, well, we also created
the pin?
The 75th anniversary pin, which is a combination of the iconic statue as well as the diamond. 75 years is the diamond anniversary. We created a sculpture which is going to move around town along with the trophy in various places. It'll be visible here starting in May. There's going to be decals on the all throughout downtown Omaha, which URL codes that people can take a photo of and go onto our website that we specifically created for the 75th anniversary to get stories. It's got stories from everybody. I mean, one of the great things, and Lisa's been part of this too, that we've had the relationships that have been created over the years, that people keep coming here. We've got people that come here, as we mentioned earlier, LSU and other places, whether or not they're playing. Well, we've got people from USC that come in. Rod Dato, who's the winningest coach in baseball, at least from the standpoint of College World Series championship. His family is heavily involved and comes in every year. So there's so many memories that have been created that everybody really, they just take a look at this event and go, how has it maintained its appeal to the whole family?
Yeah.
It's not like, I mean, the Final Fours are great, but that's hardly for the whole family.
Yeah.
You go to the College World Series and walk around the concourse, there is a lot of kids.
Yeah.
And with these slump busters, so it's for the whole family. It'll continue for the whole family, and yet it's a major championship for baseball, and we want to continue making it the best it can be for all participants.
I think just the fact that it's here in Omaha, it's not in nothing wrong with these cities, but it's not in New York City, it's not in Atlanta, it's not in Chicago. I think the family aspect of coming to Nebraska, coming in Omaha, there's things for everybody to do and enjoy terrific baseball while you're here.
That's right.
Well, and people here again, you being in the hotel business, people like to, now that we've got a successful event, people that come here complain about the price of the hotel rooms. There's two, and
supply and
rental
demand.
cars and everything.
And I'm not in that business anymore either.
And relatively speaking, if you were one of those cities you were mentioning,
it would be
whether it be in Texas, it'd be 2 or 3 times easy. And the cost of living is fairly reasonable here, so the cost of going out that much more affordable. And this is in the middle of the country, so it's good for everybody to get to.
Yeah, they can drive here if they have to.
We even had Peyton Manning here. He's not too long in the last couple of years. His son
was here last year. I know he was in the press box.
And his son was playing in the Slump Busters tournament.
Yeah.
So he had to come and see what it was all about. So you never know who's going to show up.
No, you don't. So very cool. Well, Jack, Lisa, thank you so much for
Thank you, Gil.
coming on this afternoon or evening or morning, whenever you're going to tune in to the podcast, and giving us a little insight as to behind the scenes. I don't think a lot of people understood the history or understand the history of the ballparks and the organization itself. And it sounds like you got some great things going on to celebrate the 75th anniversary, and hopefully we'll be back here 25 years to celebrate the 100th anniversary.
There you go. Well, thanks to you, and thanks to the city, and as I said before, thanks to the business community, and thanks to Mecca and everybody that's been a part of the success to date. We couldn't do this without a great big partnership for everybody. So thank you.
It's a good deal. Well, we appreciate everything that you guys do for us. So take it easy, and we'll see you at the game in June.
There you go. Let's get ready to play ball.
Play ball. Thanks again for joining us today. Hit that like and subscribe button so you'll never miss an episode.